Most people believe power comes from attack, from striking first, from being loud, aggressive, dominant, and forceful. Movies glorify it. Social media rewards it. Society often mistakes visibility for strength. But psychology, history, and human behavior tell a very different story. True power is rarely aggressive. Real strength is quiet, controlled, and prepared. Those who attack first often reveal fear, insecurity, or impatience. Those who master defense understand something deeper about the human mind. Defense is not weakness. Defense is awareness. Defense is control. Defense is the ability to remain unshaken while others exhaust themselves. This is not about physical combat alone. This is about mental defense, emotional defense, strategic defense, and psychological positioning. In relationships, leadership, competition, and life itself, defense shapes outcomes more than attack ever could. This is why defense is more powerful than attack, explained through psychology. Section 1. Attack is emotion. Defense is control psychologically. Attacks are driven by emotion, anger, fear, insecurity, urgency, ego. When someone attacks, they react. Reaction means loss of control. Defense, on the other hand, requires regulation. It requires awareness of emotion without being ruled by it. A defensive mind observes first, responds later, and chooses its actions deliberately. The human brain has two primary systems. One reacts instantly to threats. The other analyzes and plans. Attack comes from the reactive system. Defense comes from the strategic system. When you attack, you reveal your emotional state. You expose your intentions. You show where you are vulnerable. When you defend, you gather information while revealing little. This is why calm individuals hold more power in tense situations. Their lack of reaction unsettles others. Silence becomes pressure. Stillness becomes authority. Defense is not passive. Defense is not passive. It is disciplined. Section 2. The psychology of self-preservation at its core, defense is rooted in survival. The brain is wired to protect before it conquers. Long-term survival favors those who conserve energy, avoid unnecessary risk, and respond only when necessary. Attack burns resources, energy, attention, reputation, emotional stability. Defense preserves them. Psychology shows that people who constantly engage in conflict experience higher stress, faster burnout, and impaired judgment. Their nervous system remains in fight mode. Over time, this reduces clarity and resilience. Defensive individuals operate differently. They choose their battles. They avoid unnecessary exposure. They maintain psychological reserves. Power belongs to those who last, not those who rush. Section 3. Attack reveals intentions. Defense conceals them. One of the greatest strategic disadvantages of attacking is exposure. The moment you attack, you declare your position. You show your priorities. You reveal what matters to you. Psychologically, humans are pattern-seeking. Once your behavior is visible, others adapt. They counter. They prepare. Defense creates uncertainty. When others don't know your intentions, they hesitate. Hesitation creates mistakes. Hesitation creates mistakes. Uncertainty is uncomfortable for the human brain. It craves predictability. Defensive positioning denies that comfort. This alone shifts power. This applies in arguments, negotiations, leadership, and competition. Those who speak less and observe more often control the outcome. Defense is the art of staying unreadable. Section 4. Why attackers burn out faster. Attack requires constant output, constant pressure, constant reaction. This creates fatigue. Psychologically, sustained aggression activates stress hormones. Over time, this leads to emotional exhaustion, irritability, and poor decision-making. Attackers often confuse intensity with effectiveness. They believe doing more means achieving more. But intensity without recovery collapses. Defensive individuals pace themselves. They recover. They adapt. This is why patient minds outlast aggressive ones. In long-term games, endurance matters more than bursts of force. Defense protects energy. Energy is power. Section 5. The ego trap of attack. Many attacks are driven by ego. The need to prove dominance. The need to win visibly. The need to be right. Ego craves recognition. Defense does not. Psychologically, ego narrows perception. It blinds people to consequences. It encourages unnecessary risks. Defensive minds do not need validation. They focus on outcomes, not appearances. This is why the most dangerous opponents often appear calm, modest or underestimated. They do not need to announce their strength. Power grows when ego shrinks. Section 6. Defense creates psychological safety. Psychology shows that performance improves in safe environments. When the brain does not feel threatened, it thinks clearly. Defensive positioning reduces internal chaos. It allows reflection, planning, and adaptation. Attackers often operate from internal pressure. They feel they must act or lose. This pressure clouds judgment. Defense removes urgency. It creates space. This applies internally as well. Mental defense means protecting your attention, emotions, and boundaries. When you constantly react to stimuli, criticism, or comparison, your mind is under attack. Defensive minds choose what they engage with. This creates clarity. Clarity is power. Section 7. Why defense wins in human conflict and arguments. The person who stays calm usually controls the outcome. When one person attacks emotionally and the other remains composed, the attacker loses credibility. Psychologically, people trust stability. Emotional outbursts signal loss of control. Calm responses signal authority. Defense allows you to let others reveal themselves, their insecurities, their intentions, their weaknesses. Silence invites projection. People fill silence with information. Attackers expose themselves. Defenders collect data. This is why skilled negotiators listen more than they speak. Defense turns conflict into insight. Section 8. The strategic advantage of waiting. Timing is psychological power. Acting too early reveals fear. Acting too late loses opportunity. Defense emphasizes waiting for the right moment. The brain struggles with waiting. Impatience pushes people to attack prematurely. Defensive thinkers tolerate uncertainty. They allow situations to unfold. They strike only when conditions favor them. Waiting creates leverage. It allows information to accumulate. It exposes patterns. Those who wait often win without fighting. Section 9. Defense and perception management. Perception shapes behavior. How others perceive you determines how they treat you. Attackers are perceived as volatile. Defensive individuals are perceived as stable. Psychologically, people approach stable figures with caution and respect. They test aggressive ones. Defense creates an aura of confidence, not because of intimidation but because of restraint. Restraint signals self-trust. This is why powerful people often appear unbothered. They do not react to everything. They do not explain themselves constantly. Their silence communicates strength. Section 10. Defense in leadership and power. Strong leaders are not constantly aggressive. They are consistent, predictable, and fair. Psychology shows that people follow leaders they feel safe around. Fear-based leadership creates compliance, not loyalty. Defensive leadership protects systems, people, and values. It intervenes only when necessary. Leaders who attack constantly create instability. Teams become anxious. Creativity dies. Defensive leaders create trust. Trust amplifies power. This is why the best leaders are calm in crisis. Section 11. The inner defense. Most people ignore the most important defense is internal. Defending your mind from unnecessary thoughts, comparisons, and emotional reactions. Modern life attacks attention constantly. Notifications, opinions, content, expectations. Without mental defense, the mind becomes reactive, scattered, exhausted. Psychologically, attention is a finite resource. Defensive minds protect it. They choose what deserves emotional investment. They ignore noise. Inner defense creates focus. Focus creates mastery. Section 12. Attack feels powerful. Defense is powerful. Attack provides an immediate emotional release. It feels empowering in the moment. Defense feels slower, quieter, less dramatic. But psychology teaches that short-term emotional relief often undermines long-term power. Attack satisfies emotion. Defense builds position. One feels strong now. The other becomes strong over time. True power is not felt instantly. It accumulates. Section 13. Defense and emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and regulate emotions. Defense requires emotional intelligence. Attack often bypasses it. When you defend emotionally, you acknowledge feelings without letting them dictate behavior. This allows clear communication, strategic response, controlled action. Emotionally intelligent individuals are harder to manipulate. They are less reactive, more adaptable. Defense strengthens emotional intelligence. Section 14. Why attack escalates conflict? Attack invites retaliation. This creates cycles of conflict. Psychologically, humans mirror behavior. Aggression breeds aggression. Defense disrupts this cycle. Calm responses de-escalate situations. This is why negotiators, mediators, and diplomats emphasize defensive communication. Defense absorbs tension instead of amplifying it. In life, escalation rarely leads to resolution. Section 15. Defense as long-term strategy. Attack wins moments. Defense wins trajectories. Life is not a single battle. It is a series of decisions over time. Those who defend wisely preserve relationships, reputation, energy, and clarity. Those who attack recklessly burn bridges. Psychology favors sustainability. Defense is sustainable power. Section 16. Knowing when to switch from defense to action. Defense does not mean inaction forever. It means choosing the right moment. Psychologically, the best time to act is when emotion is low and clarity is high. Defense gathers information. Action applies it. The strongest individuals know when to remain silent and when to move decisively. This balance defines mastery. Section 17. Defense builds inner confidence. Confidence does not come from domination. It comes from self-trust. When you know you can handle pressure without reacting, confidence grows. Defensive minds trust their ability to respond effectively when needed. They do not rush to prove themselves. This quiet confidence is deeply unsettling to aggressive personalities. Defense shifts the psychological balance. Section 18. Why society misunderstands defense. Modern culture rewards visibility, speed, and aggression. Defense is subtle and often invisible. But invisibility is not weakness, it is strategic positioning. Psychology values what it can see, not what protects. Defense works behind the scenes. That is why it is underestimated. Section 19. Defense in personal growth. Personal growth requires defending against old habits, limiting beliefs, and destructive patterns. Attack on yourself through self-criticism often backfires. Defensive self-awareness is more effective. Observing without judgment, adjusting without punishment. Psychologically, compassion regulates the nervous system. Shame dysregulates it. Defense protects growth. Section 20. The ultimate power of defense. Defense allows you to choose. Attack forces reaction. Choice is power. When you can pause, observe, and decide, you control outcomes. Defense creates that pause. Attack is loud. Defense is quiet. Attack is emotional. Defense is psychological. Attack seeks immediate dominance. Defense builds lasting power. In a world driven by reaction, those who master defense stand apart. They are not rushed. They are not shaken. They are not predictable. They let others reveal themselves. They conserve energy. They choose timing. Defense is not weakness. It is restraint, awareness, intelligence, and in the long run, restraint always outperforms force. This is why defense is more powerful than attack.